No, you know, just it's always a process producing and developing and directing a television series. So we started out with this idea to produce a series about a science fiction writer that was worldwide known, had a brand, if you will. And Ray Bradbury, of course, was a famous name, and we made a deal with Ray Bradbury, and then we had to raise $30 million, and then we had to make deals with Canadians, and then the Canadians want X percentage, and then the Canadians want 6 basis points in every project that you make, which means that you have to hire a Canadian actor, Canadian director. But we ended up getting good actors like Peter O'Toole and Jeff Goldblum, and produced an award-winning television series, and you know, it was a good experience. I'm proud of it. It's, you know, a little notch on your forehead, and then you go onward to the next thing. But I'm grateful that I was able to meet Ray Bradbury and interface with him on a daily basis. Interesting writer, believed in the beginning and the middle of a story, not the end. And so it was always hard to produce a story that had no ending. But he liked that. He felt that was really what science fiction was about. But to be humble about the whole experience, I was grateful to experience good actors, good directors, good producers. Thank you.
I don't know if any of you follow the show Police Story, but season 2 finally came out. We waited about, I think it was 4 years since season 1. But I think both seasons feature you on the cover, Mr. Estrada, but I thought that you weren't in an episode. I know Mr. Wilcox was in an episode, but...
I'll tell you about how.
Yeah.
That was the second movie I did in my career was 20 years old. It was a movie called The New Centurions with George C. Scott. I played a rookie Mexican police officer from East LA, pretty rowdy and just off the hook. And one of the scenes that I had was we chased these bad guys, these vatos, and we chased them, and then I get really ticked off, so I take a baton and I smash their window to their car once we pull them over. But I was wearing a helmet, a motorcycle helmet, a white helmet. And the still photographer took a picture of me, and then when they created Police Story on television, they used that picture for their commercial lead-ins and commercial outs. And when I saw it, I called my agent and said, they're using my picture. So they made him pay me top of the show, which back then, in '71, was $2,500 for an episode. That's called top of the show. As an actor, you work to, you get, if you do a big part, you get paid for that. The next part, you hope it's 2 days or 3 days, and then finally you get in a position where you're paid top of the show, whatever that show is paying, which is set by Screen Actors Guild at the time. And at that time, it was $2,500 at the top of the show. But I never did an episode because they sent a script and I didn't like it, so I didn't have to do it, but I still got paid. So they figured, hey, we got to pay them anyway, let's stick them in an episode. But I never liked anything they sent me, so. That's how that came to be. That's how I was always in the commercial lead-ins and out.
Yeah, I kept looking for you in an episode.
It was a lucky thing. Brown paper bag money.
Okay, I know you guys have a ton of questions, so I'm going to turn this over to you. We'll start with this, that side of the room, because you were ready, ma'am. I got you.
Ma'am, before you start, Larry has a very important business thing to do, so I'll stay, but my man needs to take care of his business, so hit him with everything you got before he leaves.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Estrada, I have one non-just question. We were talking earlier about the possible switchblade.
Right.
Film, I wanted to ask you were very young then, but I wanted to ask you how to play a real person. How did that change you? Because it wasn't a picture thing, you were playing a real person who is still living today. How did that change you and how did that affect you then?
How did that change me to play Nikki Cruz in the movie The Cross the Switchblade? A real person? Wow. You know, they were looking for the fellow that I played today is an ordained minister. brings a lot of people to the Lord on a weekly basis. He's still preaching. But there was a gang in New York called the Mau Maus. He was the warlord of the Mau Maus in the 50s. This gang, I used to shine shoes at Columbus Circle. And by a newsstand right there by the circle where they had 1010 Winds, now it's the Trump Towers and stuff like that. But I used to always see in the daily news, Mau Maus, that was the name of his gang. There was a preacher in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania named David Wilcox who actually read the news, the daily news, and he wrote a book. He wrote The Cross and the Switchblade, and it was about him reading about these gangs and the Lord telling him, go to New York and help these kids. He said, God tapped him to go do that. So he came to New York and he sought out the most vicious gang, and it was Nicky Cruz. Now, I knew about gangs because I grew up in Harlem. My dad was a heroin addict, so I knew about drugs and the rest of it. I mean, at the age of 5, I could spot a person who took a hit, needed a hit, or was on a hit, okay, or coming off a hit. And so I could relate to it. And I wanted to be a New York cop. I was going to be a New York cop. That was my thing, because my mother dated a cop after she tossed my dad out. And I loved this man. The first man I ever loved was a cop. So that's why I wanted to be a cop. But I got sidetracked chasing this blonde in high school. She was in drama club, and I figured, I grew up in Spanish Harlem. I can act. Well, you have to learn how to act when you grow up in Spanish Harlem in the streets, because I knew when to fight and when not to fight, and especially when to run. Okay? The streets teach you that. So I auditioned for this role, and they were all improvisation, because I hadn't had a lot of training. I was just like hungry for it, because I got bit and I wanted to do it. I didn't want to be a cop anymore. I wanted to be an actor. So this came along, and I auditioned and auditioned, and they were all improvisation, 6 callbacks, and on the last callback, they were bringing in Pat Boone to play David Wilkerson. It was directed by Don Murray. Don Murray did The Hoodlum Priest. When he did The Hoodlum Priest, he got tapped by God. And most Christians, when they get tapped, you know what tap? You know what I mean when I say tap, right? Okay? It's not a smack on the head by God. It's you know, you feel them and you light up. So their rule, and it's an unspoken rule, when you get tapped by Christ, you go ahead and pay it forward. So you look for something where you could do it, something that to bring other people to the light. Okay? So he did The Cross and Switch, but he directed it. And on my last audition that I came in for the last callback, because I was up against the kid that was up the down staircase with Sandy Dennis. I was up against him. And he already had a movie, and I had a squat. All I had was want. All right? And I wanted it. I'm hungry. I wanted to prove my mother that, hey, you know, I don't have to be a cop right now. Let me do this. I want to try this. And I mijo no, and she'd go through her Latin thing with me, like mothers do. So I brought a switchblade to my audition, the last audition, but nobody knew I had it. And I had a scene where Harry knocks on the door, and he comes in, and he says, "Are you Nicky?" And I look at him, he looks at me, and he says, "You know, Jesus, I got a message for you. Jesus loves you." And that enraged me. So I grab Pat, I push him up against the wall, and I pull out the switchblade. Like that. And Don Murray's in the back going, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" Brings a real knife to an audition. He's somebody like me. But I got the part. And so it was great playing Nicky, you know. But I knew God before Nicky because I was a Catholic.
Pat Boone got a change of underwear? Or? Okay, man, yes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank both of you for showing up. I love chips, and you guys look great. And I have a couple questions. One, what were your favorite chips episodes? And besides chips, what shows would you like to talk about, like movies you've done, or something you say, you know what, this is an unsung project, but I'd like people to know about it. So your favorite chips episodes, and one project you did that was unsung you'd like people to know about.
Go ahead, brother.
Of course, he's going to throw it over here. Oh, let's see. Favorite Chip episodes were obviously pompously and indulgently the ones I directed. So I enjoyed directing those, and I always enjoyed directing my buddy here. I've always felt, by the way, that he was a major talent that, with certain directors, could have done anything and everything he wanted in life. So it was kind of fun to see a handsome young Latin guy, with my girlfriend. So that was fun. Probably the thing that the unsung hero thing is, that's actually an interesting question because, in each thing that you do as an actor, you have certain things that you think reflect enormous talent or virtuosity, if you will. And so I have a lot of different roles, some that I got and some that I didn't get. Like Miami Vice, I think the reading I did for Miami Vice was 10 times better than the series and the best acting that I ever did in my life, right? So no one saw that. But I'll tell you real quickly so I don't bore you with indulgence. Probably two things that I've done in my lifetime that nobody's seen were my best credits. And no one will probably ever see them. When I came back from Vietnam in the Marine Corps, and then when I started doing Chips and a bunch of other Disney movies and stuff that were getting my career accelerated, they asked me to do a piece for POWMIAs. And so I went to Indianapolis and filmed this thing about Save the American Flag because desecration of the American flag was not a palatable thing at that point in time, nor was it construed as part of our freedoms, when in fact it is now. So you don't burn the flag, you don't step on the flag, you just never do that. Right? So I did this video called Save the Flag for all the veterans of the world. And in that video, it probably took me 86 takes. And every time that I would come to talk about Cantien, which is right on the DMZ, during the Tet Offensive, I would start crying. And so I'll try not to go there now. But anyway, to make a long story short, I must have cried 50 times. And finally I started thinking, dude, what in the hell is wrong with you? Quit crying. But I finally got it done, and they used it in about 5 years later, American Legion, the Veterans Association, POWMI, before they had built the wall, sent me this great plaque, and I knew what they meant, and they knew what I did. And so to answer your question, that was probably. And then last week I did a film with Robert Pine, who played a sergeant in this movie. I played this cowboy, and I just did a cameo. It was no big thing, and I hardly do any acting anymore. I mostly do producing and capital raising for business ventures. But anyway, I went and did it, and when you haven't acted for a while, sometimes you doubt your ability, or at least I did temporarily, right? And I left that film really happy and excited about what I did, because I realized that we just made a film about Make-A-Wish Foundation, about the gentleman that started Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I knew this was not a movie about indulgence, was not a movie about Larry Wilcox's talent, was not a movie about Robert Pine's talent. It is a movie made by our maker about this is what we're here for, to help each other. So Make-A-Wish Foundation is called The Wish Man.
Well, talking about Make-A-Wish, we had the very first Make-A-Wish child, and his wish was to come to the chip set. His name was Sam. And remember, I took the kid, put a helmet on, and put him on the bike, and we took off and held production up for like an hour and a half. We took off. I want to run him around and stuff. And then Sam lived 4 years after that. And then that's when I stopped working with Make-A-Wish, because I got too close to the kid and it chewed me up, and I got involved in other foundations and things. But what I remember most, and was Larry. They would say, Larry, we're doing a country and western episode. You're going to dance.
He's the dancer.
No. And then Larry, when it came to it, Larry said, I'm not going to do that. No, let Ponch do it. So they make me do it. So after a full day, I had to go to rehearsals and learn this stuff. Then there was a time they had him, Larry, because Larry plays the guitar. They said, Larry, you're going to sing. When the time came, Larry says, no, I'm not doing that. Let Ponch do it. They made me learn the song and sing it. Celebration. So, you know, I was doing stuff that I never would have had the opportunity to do if it wasn't for being involved in CHIPS and being exposed to things that made me push the envelope. Whether, you know, it opened up good or bad, I still did it. The thing is, you just did it. And CHIPS was a great show. I mean, it was a great show. You know, when people see us, they go, oh my God, oh, wow, we do this. And they don't realize why they do it. They remember the bikes, they remember us two, the relationship, the whole thing, the being in trouble with the Sarge. The one thing that they don't realize subconsciously, it reminds every adult of warm, fuzzy times because it was 8 o'clock Sunday night with family. You watched it with your brothers, your sisters, grandma, grandpa, your first girlfriend or boyfriend, you know. And that's one of the exciting things to see because I see grown men. I go to the director of U.S. Marshal's office, or I go to ICE, I go to these various places because I'm involved with that now. And I see these grown men turn into children in front of me. And that's why. So it was a great show. And that's what I take away from CHIPS. And the money. The money was good. My mother never worked once I got my first check.
Okay, who's next? Oh, I see hands. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Did you guys know how to ride motorcycles, or were you taught, or was it?
Did we ride motorcycles before
Did you know
CHIPS?
how to ride your?
No, man, I rode the subway or the bus in New York City. I rode in Harlem. Larry, though, he had bikes. He had classic bikes. He was into Tom.
So they ask us to come down and they say, Larry, you know, remember that handsome Latin kid that you read with for the series named Erik Estrada? Yeah, well, you two are going to be training with the California Highway Patrol on motorcycles. So I said, well, I know how to ride a motorcycle, it's no big deal, but okay. But anyway, to make a long story short, we learned a lot on the California Highway Patrol training, and you know, we had to high-speed braking where the rear end comes around in front of you. Your handlebars looking at your tail light, and you have to lay down the bike, and you know, all kinds of things that we learned. And so we actually, both of us became really, I say pompously, talented in terms of riding the motorcycle on the show. On the close-ups, they put us on a trailer so that they could keep the focus because the focus changes with two people. But you know, just tangentially, Erik had, you know, a really, really bad motorcycle accident, and I've often told this story that it's a miracle that he's here today, where he wrecked his motorcycle, stuntman changed his position, wasn't supposed to be where he was, and screwed everything up, and Erik wrecked his motorcycle. Then the motorcycle high-sided, which is the all-time no-no in motorcycles, and hit him in the sternum, broke his sternum, and ruptured his aorta. Both lungs punctured. And so they beat on my motorhome and said, hey, Larry, you need to come out here. Erik just crashed really bad. So I go out there, and it was kind of like deja vu of Vietnam. I look in Erik's eyes, and I see death. And I knew death so well, and the eye always comes in the eye of willpower. Determines whether you're going to live or die. And I'm holding his hand and yelling at him, just keep looking at me and not give up, and he's going to be fine. His lungs are filling up with fluid. He's having a hard time breathing. Take him into the ambulance. We go to the hospital. The priest comes in, gives him last rites. And then they said maybe they would fly into Houston because the big deal to get open heart surgery at that point in time was in Houston, Texas, because not many people did open heart surgery, right? And they were doing experiments with different pig hearts and everything in people's bodies, and that was going to save his life, or leaking an aorta is a bad issue. But anyway, 6 weeks later, miracle, he didn't have to go to Houston to have surgery, and he lived. And so your motorcycle question is, here's the miracle of motorcycles right there.
Larry saved my life, more or less. He just kept me focused, and I just MFing everywhere. Throwing the F-bomb here and F-bomb there, because when they took me, they finally helicoptered me to UCLA, and they put me on a slab, and they wanted to cut me open, but I wouldn't authorize it. I kept yelling at them until anyway, the dude that put you on, I'm laying there, and he puts his hand on my forehead like this. He says, dude, you want to die? Then chill out. And it dawned on me. So I wouldn't let them cut me open, so what they did was they shot me through and through with dye and x-rayed me. And then I never let them cut me open. I wouldn't let them, I started healing, but it took weeks before and everything. It was nasty. And yeah, if you watch the first few episodes, you saw us on the trailer, because they also didn't have a way of capturing our voices so we can have dialogue because of the noise. So what they did was they raised up a little bit. Then we started freewheeling, and what they did, and they solved it with the mic under the shirt and on the t-shirt, it was right here, and they just raised the visor on the bike, the windshield, a little higher, and that blocked the wind, so we were able to communicate. But when they started letting us freewheel, that's when I started having accidents. A lot of them. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's my bike experience.
I almost missed you. I'm sorry. So yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Just a quick question for both of you, but directed primarily at Larry, since I know you've got to go. You had the opportunity to work with many great character actors and classic actors on your show, doing cameos and other things. Is there any one person who stood out that you really enjoyed working with when they put in those appearances for both of you?
There were so many. Yeah. We had a lot of good people. It was great to watch people that you watched as a kid at 2 or 3 in the morning, because you want to go to bed. You're watching the Late Show, where they used to have the Late Show in black and white on TV. Or at least I did.
Maybe Sharon Stone.
Well, we had a lot of beautiful people, and it was great. It was great to just see these people that you watched. So we were like, I was like the kid in the candy store. It was but there were so many. There's not one specific, there were many.
Yes, sir.
When you guys were filming Chips, at that time it was a rare show because you could do scenes that could be heavy with drama, and you would later on in the show also do a lighthearted, funny scene. And one of the most lasting trilogies, I guess, of the show is that you always ended each episode with a funny ensemble scene that left us with a laugh and a smile.
Freeze frame. You're talking about the freeze frames at the end?
Yeah. Could you guys kind of speak to the production of that? And was that improvised? Was that always scripted? And what was that like to have the timing of that down with 4, 5, 6 different cast members?
The freeze frames? Well, we just continue with the scene, and the editors would just pick, catch Larry going, and the sergeant going, and me going. That was an editing bit. That was, and that's the way they created the show, wanted it to end always. But we always had one main theme and a lot of vignettes. And always we wanted to relate to young people, that you can relate to officers. Just because the guy's in a uniform, you shouldn't be afraid of him. You know, that was one of the big things we used to get all the time. The kids used to love it. They would go up to cops. Cops used to tell us, man, I got kids coming all over me all the time. That's what the show promoted. Today, it's a different world for police officers, as you know. Unfortunately, but it is.
You know, the other thing is that actors sometimes forget, they come up here and talk to you about all their great scenes or this or that, but with respect to your question, the editors and the producers were marketing a brand, a product. So were you going to go to the store and buy these toys? Or are you going to go to the store and buy this? Or are you going to go to the store and buy that? It's branding. And so they were really putting lipstick on us. And every good picture they could find of Erik, you know, that looked handsome and sexy and et cetera, they would freeze frame that shot. Right? There you go. So it was marketing.
Yes, sir, right there.
In developing your characters, did you take anything from the police TV shows that came before you, Adam 12, the other shows that you tried to develop your own characters after meeting with policemen? Or, you know,
No, I didn't. You know, I may have a different theory than Erik does on this, but respectfully, my theory is when you do a television series that it's real important to be sustainable. And, you know, most of us who have studied acting for a lengthy period of our life know how to do dramatic stuff and intense and wow, that was a great scene and all that. And I always felt like if you do that on a television series, it'll be good for 6 episodes. About 12, you get boring. So to have sustainability, I had to have believability. And I was a straight man for Punch. So it was important that I didn't do a lot of acting. It was important that I was just honest and, you know, charismatic to my buddy, respectful of my buddy. Chemistry came off between us, I think was what the show was about. And as a result of that chemistry, it was successful. But no, I didn't. It wasn't a show if I started to do, we used to do Bibles on characters where you write this enormous Bible of did you fart when you were 4 years old? And, you know, what your mother was like and what your father was like. We used to write these Bibles on a character before you do a good role. Not, if I would have done that on Chips, I would have ruined it.
To Larry's point, Poncherello shined because of the Baker character. He set me up all the time. And so it made my character shine. He knew the book of the law. I read the book, but I'd step in it and then have to look at it. That's the way that it was really written. But I never had to research wanting to play playing a cop because I was going to be a New York City police officer before I became an actor. Actor was my second thing, because chasing this girl. And I got bit by the acting bug and went after it. Later on, I went back and became a cop in Indiana. Muncie. But I'm no longer there. I'm in Virginia and Idaho now. I'm with the Mormons.
Is there anyone on this side of the room? I haven't gotten you in a while. Yeah, I see you, ma'am. Yeah.
I just wondered if you could talk about being, weren't you on Murder, She Wrote? Seems like you were a bad guy.
Me?
Yeah?
Yeah.
You had a problem with being colorblind at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I did usually, you know, Murder, She Wrote was one of those shows that you could be a character. So if somebody said to me, what would you really like to have done to appeal to your original question? If you look back in your acting career, what would have you liked to have done, Larry? I would have liked to have been a character actor. Because I think character actors playing all these different roles, small roles, versus leading man is more interesting to me and more creative. So in Murder, She Wrote, they would allow me to be a different character. Every year they would give me an episode and then I would read it and say, okay, how can I make this guy different? what's more interesting about him, et cetera, et cetera. So Murder, She Wrote was one of the ones that I got to create some kind of kinky little characters.
Yep, sir, I got you right there.
Question for Eric. Do you have any funny stories about being a cop in Indiana?
Being a cop?
Yeah, I mean, that must
Yeah, my first bus, we roll up on a house. They were selling crack out of the house, and it was a 55-year-old grandma. We go through her room, we had probable cause, and we went through and we found her book of, she sold us, who owed her, who she sold to, and price and everything. And I had to cuff her and put her in the back of the car. And I'm taking her, and I got her cuffed, and I'm walking her to the back of the car. It's about 11 o'clock at night, because we did the raid. And she has no teeth. And she's going. She's going like that. And she said, you know, I always wanted to meet you. But not that good. She was a fan. But I had to take her down. And, you know, you take them to county and you process them. That was my first bus.
And that was that blonde in his acting class.
I saw a lady with her hand up over there. Did someone? Yeah, there you are, ma'am.
Did you give her your autograph?
Well, I had to sign the report. I didn't but it said officer.
Yes, ma'am, I got you.
This question for Eric. I was in 10th grade in high school, and there was in biology class, there was a girlfriend of mine and I, and we would talk about the episode where you were engaged to Beverly Saxon.
Oh, you remember that one?
Yeah.
And we would talk about that, and we're like, oh, we were crying. We were crying in class because we really liked, you know, we thought that was a good pairing of you and Beverly Saxon when you guys were on that episode, because it was a two-parter, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. She was killed by a drunk driver. We were doing a show to
Right.
promote Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And I was engaged to her. And the studio said, well, Ponch can't get married. He's got to be loose. So we'll kill her off. But we wanted to put, but also we want to bring awareness and, to the organization, Foundation Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. So we did that episode. But I was dating Beverly. I was in my third-year relationship with her at that time. After she died, it ended.
Okay, yep, I see you all the way in the back there.
You still do rodeos, and how's your career back?
How did that go?
Your rodeo career?
Yeah, oh man, he had a great horse. Remember that horse? Well, his roping horse. I'm sorry. Yeah. This horse didn't have 1 inch of fat on him.
Yeah, he was a great one. So we did one episode about rodeo, by the way, and cowboys and roping and rodeo. So I got to have fun because I'm a cowboy, so I roped and did the team roping and stuff off this horse. And then we did another episode where we had to rope a guy off a horse, and I had this stallion out of Alameda's Bars, 3 Bars, a real famous race horse. And that's the horse he's referring to. So I brought my stallion and had to make sure there's no mares near there when we were riding him. But anyway, he was a great horse. And yeah, I rodeoed. I did that for, I don't know, multiple years. A member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. And then I got into cutting horses and rode cutting horses for a while. And I taught my oldest son, Derek, how to rope when he was like 5 years old. And then I taught Ryan, one of my younger sons now, he ropes and breaks horses and worked for the world champion cutting horse guy, Chubby Turner in Texas. So we have that cowboy still in us, but we don't have the ranch.
When I first met Larry, I already had an audition with the producers and stuff like that. They were bringing Larry in so I could read with him so they could match us up to see if it clicked. I'm waiting at MGM. I'm standing outside. I'm dressed like an off-duty cop because I knew cops. My mother dated a cop, and that's why I wanted to be one. And so I knew how they were off-duty. So I came in with a T-shirt, jeans, sneakers, and I'm waiting out there. And Larry pulls up in a pickup truck, and he parks. And he's got a big thing like this, and it's hay. And he had a saddle in the back there. And when he came out, I said, "Man, you got a horse." I'm a New York City kid, you know. He got a horse. We rode cockroaches. The combination of who he is and where he's from and mine just works so beautifully. You know?
Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
I saw you recently on the Battle Network Stars. So how was that experience?
We smoked it. Yeah, but Larry had something wrong with your arm.
Severed bicep.
He got a severed bicep, and Lorenzo Lama was giving us some story about I cannot do this. So they made me do the obstacle course. I'm 68 years old. I don't care how I look. I feel my age sometimes. Well, we had a great time. We won it at the end because, well, Larry was the anchor. And we were just, yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. We knocked that out in one day.
They asked us, they called me and said, you know, we're going to do this thing, Battle of the Network Stars, and do you remember doing it? I said, yeah, well, you know, when I was 20-some years old. I said, well, could you do it again? You know, and Erik Estrada is going to do it. And I said, oh, man, are you going to make an ass of us? Is that
They did it on purpose. They had us, we did it back in the 70s. Okay? They just brought us back to show us the things that we can't do anymore.
And so we get there, and my wife says, "You sure you want to do this?" You know, and I said, "Yeah, I guess." And I said, "Well, what will we do?" They said, "Well, Larry, you maybe play basketball." I said, "Damn, maybe half court. You know, I can't play full court." And so I went down to the basketball thing and practiced because I think I'm a pretty good basketball player. And as soon as I practiced, I realized I'm terrible. So I couldn't even hardly dribble very good anymore. You know, I used to think I had pretty good handles. And then I'm thinking, damn, my wife said, "How'd you do today? How'd you do today? You're going to be on national television making an ass of yourself." Well, little did I know, and by the way, my wife's a former Olympic track and field athlete in 7 events, so she's going to really humble me. So I wasn't sure what sex I was that day. I go to the track, and there's, Ponch, and I always call him Ponch. I enjoy calling him Ponch. So there's my buddy Ponch, right? And they say, you guys are going to run the relay race. And I'm thinking, I'm going to hide in the background because I'm not running any damn relay race. Erik Estrada, you'll run the first leg. Larry Wilcox, you'll run the second leg. And, they went on and on. I think, oh, my God. So I asked my wife, about, where you ask for the baton, right? Stick, as they say in track and field. Stick, right? Stick. So Erik and I are going, stick. We're looking retarded, right? Stick. And then they get ready to do the race, and they pull the trigger, and there goes the race. And I look over, and there's my buddy Ponch. Dude, I'm sorry, and I don't mean any disrespect in this statement, looked like a Chinaman shuffling at 75 years old. His stride length was this long. And I said to my wife, who was, you know, coaching me, now remember, do this, this, and this, relax, bring your knees up high above. And I said, look at Eric. She said, shut up, you're next. From then on, we had a good time. We realized that, you know, it is what it is. And at the end, you know, I was thinking, well, I was in the Marines. My best event's the obstacle course. I can really do the obstacle course, but my bicep severed, which is I won't bore you with the story, a really simple story. I was washing my Prius one day, on the top of and it tore my Prius, my bicep. I wish it was a macho story, but it isn't. So I couldn't hold on to the bars, you know, in the obstacle course, so we all punch, Eric. We humiliated him doing the obstacle course, but he did good, and we won the end event, and ended up the cops won.
Okay, who's got another one? Oh, yep, I got you.
Eric, how did you end up in Indiana, and how long did you work for the Muncie Police?
Well, you know, I wanted to be a cop since I was 4 because my mother dated a cop. First man I loved was a cop, and I wanted to be one. And then I changed my mind, and I wanted to try acting. CBS was doing a reality show where they took 5 recognizable people, and they called it Armed and Famous. And I heard about it, and I said that they were going to put us through a police academy. And I said, you know what? I wonder if I still get that passion, that hunger, that what I wanted to. Your first love, you know, your first time, your first thing. So I said, get me on that show. I got to be on that show. They thought it was a no-brainer. Since I played a cop, let's put him through the real deal. So I took the opportunity, and we shot it in Muncie. We did 6 episodes. It was some CBS replacement thing, but I took it serious. I went through the course. I got a 98 on my written test. Yeah, and that's because I'm so ADD that one of the questions was a multiple about probable cause. And I'm reading it, and the first one, the B was correct. I never went down to the C or the D, because the last one had both answers that were correct. But I went right to that. So I got a 98, anyway. And, you know, I wanted to see if I still had that desire as a child to be a cop, that I always wanted to be one. And then I got sidetracked with the acting, chasing that. And I only chased the acting because I wanted to make money so I could get my mother out of the projects and have her living the way I wanted her to live, the way she should have been living. All right, so anyway, so that was a whole other thing with my mom. I had to make a deal with her, tell her, hey, Mom, look, I got to give this a shot. Hey, Mimo, no, you're going to be police, no? I said, no, Ma, I got to give this a shot. I want to do this. I want to try this. I'll make a deal with you. If I can make money at this, if I don't make any money in the acting world, I'll come back by 30, 32 years old. I can go to Albany and become a New York City police officer. Boom. And you'll be my roommate. And you'll live with me. And I'll get you out of the projects and have you living swell. No. So I'm in the academy. Now they tell we got defensive tactics class. And they put a Sam Brown on you and a rubber gun, and they tell you, okay, don't let me take your gun. And they toss you around, you gotta fight off the cop. You do that. That was interesting. Then they said, okay, now, on the street, you want to carry a mace, or a taser? I said, oh, snap. I said, well, I don't want to be mazed because that stuff will burn, maybe mess up my skin. And my hair. So what they did was they used the alligator clips. They put me on the shoulder here and then on your thigh. And then you stand like this and you got an officer on each side of you, trainers. And they're there so you don't fall on your face, break your nose. And then they pull the trigger. And man, it tased me and it sucked. Really, I'm telling you, if a cop ever has a taser on you, comply. Because it blows, really, you know. So, but once I got tased, after it was over, I felt like I came off of it, I felt that I could pick up a Volkswagen and throw it. It's like I come off juice. But that's when I realized, you know what? I do want to be a cop. I still want to be a cop. So after the show was over, for 3 years I kept going back and putting in 99 hours a year to keep my certification up as a reserve police officer. But then it dawned on me, I'm working, you know, I couldn't work during the days. People would be outside in front of my car and everything, want autographs when I roll up in the house and come out. Or go on. I said, I can't do this. I got a real gun. This is not, you know, autograph time. So I opted for graveyard. I started working graveyard. I'm like, the third year, I said, let me do 14 days or, you know, whatever 99 hours came to. Because I would go and stay at a hotel and live there in Muncie. I knock out my period time for qualifications in one full sweep because I don't want to go back and forth. So I'm working nights and I realized after the fourth night, I said, man, this really sucks. It really sucks. It really sucks. You go to the bars, you got to deal with that. You got to deal with tail lights that are out. You got to deal with going to a crack house. You got to deal with this, and it's at nighttime. It's scary, you know? But I figured, you know, one night somehow somebody is going to mess my hair up real bad. So I started looking for something that I could use my celebrity and bring attention to something. So I heard about a sheriff from Bedford County who had a foundation called Safe Surfing Foundation, where he gets funds and makes DVDs up that are age-appropriate interactive from K to 12 to educate our young people about the internet, the dangers of the internet. Because as we're here right now, some kid is getting groomed right now by an online sexual predator who thinks he's his best friend and this and that. They got the same interests and all this. And then they just come and take him. And they hurt him. Okay? So, coño. So anyway, so I went to Bedford, became a deputy sheriff, got involved with the internet for the last 8 years. And then after 8 years of child porn and all this and popping these guys and doing that, I left that and I got involved with the Idaho Police Department. It's a small department, so I could keep my thirst for my passion. Just my passion is being a cop. That's what happened.
All right, no pressure, folks, but we got time for one more question, so it's got to be really, really good. Yes, ma'am, I like that spunk. Go for it.
How did the other police officers treat you, knowing you're a movie star?
When they say,
As you as Erik Estrada, you know, you're a cop and an actor.
oh, how do other cops do what?
Treat you.
Treat me?
Yeah.
Oh no, they call me brother.
They what?
They call me brother. It's a brotherhood, you know. You know, like veterans are brothers, Marines are brothers, servicemen, they're brothers and sisters. They treat me with respect and they take it for real. Well, my sergeant used to call me the real deal when I was doing my training and qualifications for 6 weeks. So they treat me good, and half of them, I grew up watching you. I'm telling you, grown men in uniforms, they melt when they meet. They fall out.
All right. Ma'am, I saw your hand. We'll do one more with you, yeah?
And tell us about relocating your mother. Where did your mother leave the projects?
Well, when I made the deal with her, I took my mother out of the projects. I put her in an apartment on 57th and 8th Avenue. She was the 10th tenant. She had a doorman, she had a pool. She had 5 restaurants, local restaurants, where she just went and signed her name. I picked the bills, and she never worked for about 40 years. I took care of everything. Children, if you could take a child, put them in a safe place, and then just light them up, and they get motivated, they got motivation. My mother was my motivation. My making it, not being dead or heroin or junkie or anything, even though I've been out there. Was the influence of the guy, the cop in my life. But, you know, my mother passed April 20th of this year, but she had a good run, don't be sad. She had a good run. But when she was 71, I took her to the hospital because she needed some bypass stuff, and we put a pacemaker in her. I got another 250,000 miles out of her. She was my reason. That's why my attitude about work now is, hey, I do it or I don't do it. If I like it, I do it. And that, besides, I'm collecting unemployment. I'm collecting Social Security, sagging after pensions, and this is great. But with my mother gone, I got a different view on the career thing. I don't care. I do what I want if I want. You know, because I don't have to pay her bills anymore. She's gone.
Okay, let's give it up for Erik and Larry.